Hello, friends, and welcome back to Market Shares. I am your host, Tony Blodgett, and today we have a very special episode. Look, I told you guys this year we were going to have some really cool content on this channel, and this is going to, I think, set the bar pretty high because today I am here on the shore of Lake Union in downtown Seattle, Washington, live and in person with all of my good friends at the Washington Mortgage Bankers Association, an organization I've been a part of for many, many years and I'm very passionate about. And I want to thank them for inviting us here to do this live episode of Market Shares. I also want to thank Pool Media for pulling this off because you guys, doing a podcast in a studio is difficult enough, but bringing that show on the road is even more challenging. And so my good friend Jeremy Poole with Pool Media helped pull this off. And then my guests, Richard Milligan has been on Market Shares before. So welcome back, Richard. I'm excited to have this conversation with you again. We went really deep before, and I think it was one of our best episodes for those people that took the time to watch it. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to add today. And then my good friend, Bill Hart. Bill Hart is been a coach forever. I got it written down here because I heard Donovan earlier say 18,000 hours. And I remember when you used to say 18,000 hours, it was back when you used to be my coach. And then he left me, to take a wonderful opportunity at Movement Mortgage. He is the national coach at Movement Mortgage, but with over 30,000 hours in the coach's chair, over 22 years, and also wrote a pretty cool book called The White Collar Warrior, which you should check out. Richard Milligan, I did not mention, is the president of 4C Recruiting and really focuses on helping recruiting leaders. And I think everybody in this industry, everyone from a loan officer, branch managers, regionals, and executives are all recruiting leaders in their own way. And so I'm excited for this conversation because I don't think that I've seen a time in the mortgage industry where coaching is more important, right? I feel like we used to be in an environment where everyone was in the office. You got to learn from your peers, a lot of, just kind of learning through osmosis, things of that nature. But I feel like the industry has changed a lot. And if you're in a silo or you're not in an environment where you can get that sort of thing, or if you just want to get to the next level, coaching is definitely proven to be the way to get there. So we're going to dive right into that. I'm curious, just from each of you, as we kick this episode off, what do you think has really changed since, let's just say since COVID, right? Over the last 5 years in how people are absorbing information, the role of that branch manager, regional manager, now that we're kind of in this new age. Richard, I'll start with you.
I feel bad going first because I feel like I'm wearing diapers compared to Bill and coaching. I've only been coaching for 8 years.
Please. 8 amazing years.
Yes, thank you. I do think COVID shifted a lot of behavior for us, right? I think the consumer got put into a pressure cooker for those 2 years and accelerated some of our behaviors that were already going to probably take place over the coming decades. And one of those is how we get information and disseminate information. And so I think, when I look at leaders, when a leader is clear on where they are and then is also clear on where they want to go, there's this principle called the principle of the path, is that you find someone who's already gone the way and you just follow that path, right? And so for me, my skill set is really narrow. I don't try to get outside my skill set. I mean, I'm a recruiting coach. So a lot of times people come into one session with me and it's like, it's not a good fit because I'm going to coach you very, very narrow. But that experience of hiring 300 loan officers in 3 years without any recruiting support to that person that wants to build a team, if I had that when I first got in the mortgage industry, when I knew I wanted to grow, but I didn't know how to get there, I could have accelerated decades off of my journey, right? So I think people are getting to a place where they realize like motivation without education leads to discouraged people. Right. And so we're getting to a place where we say, let's educate first. Education plus motivation plus application leads to transformation. And I just think people are more aware of that now than they've ever been.
Yeah, absolutely. Bill, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that I'm not that smart. I may have been doing this longer, but he's the smartest guy in the room. And I always love listening to you. I'm always inspired by you. As I think back to COVID, I was talking about this to an earlier audience today. It was such an interesting transformation, Tony, because if you guys think about what was happening it was March, right? It was March is when it hit and people started getting calls like, pick up your kids, don't go outside, right? It was a weird time. And over that next year, think about what we all went through, let alone if you're a LO or a branch leader, whatever the role might be, you were human. And what started happening is we were frightened, we were uncertain, we didn't know what was happening. We hunkered down in our homes. We didn't go out anymore. We called DoorDash. We put on sweats. We started to watch TV. We drank too much. How am I doing?
It sounds about right.
Right? I mean, it's kind of what was happening during COVID. So I feel like there's a COVID hangover even today to some degree. We have people that right now, Tony, don't turn off their phones at night. The last thing they do is the last thing you should do, which is have blue light, right, come into your eyes. We know that, and yet those habits persist. So I think the opportunities for coaches like Richard and I are to help people sort of look at that for what it is, do a bit of a reboot, recognize the market is completely shifted. Because by the way, during COVID, we were killing it, right? We had like this survivor guilt, like restaurants are shutting down, gyms are shutting down, and I'm exploding. I feel kind of funny talking about this. And we didn't know it was coming, but it came, right? And so I think helping people to navigate that new world and this new market is what good coaches do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like during COVID, not only was there that survivor's guilt, there was a, business just literally fell out of the sky, right? And I think that a lot of bad habits were created that need to get kind of broken and retaught. Richard, one of the things that you mentioned was, let's talk about branch managers for a minute. And you said, hey, sometimes I'll get someone and I'm not the right coach for them. And I have to think that might be because there is some people out there that don't really think that recruiting is an important part of their role. And I'm curious your thoughts on this, because as a sales leader, and look, we have loan officers, in the audience and that watch this, we have branch managers and executive leaders. And I feel like it's more important than ever to build a team for, especially if you want to aspire, even if you're a top producing loan officer, look at the largest producing loan officers out there. They're building teams as well. They're recruiting talent to their team. So what are your thoughts around how important it is to have the skills necessary to build a team, whether it be as a top producer, a branch manager? And let's talk specifically about branch managers. How important is that role right now in being able to engage in those activities?
Yeah. Well, here's what the data says. The data says that this is Stratmore Group data, says that between 80 and 90% of all hires come through the market leader. Okay. We've done at 4C over the last 4 years, we've done about 1,600 surveys of market leader types. These are branch managers, sales managers, whatever you want to call them, market leaders. And so we have a really good idea and understanding that they don't see it as their responsibility. Okay, because we ask them two questions. We say, one of the questions we ask them is, what's your vision for your team? And at some level, they kind of like externally process through what's kind of like here in their heart. It's not like really a formula, but it's like, I want to hire X number of people and get to X number. And the next question we ask them is this, is what's the number one thing that if you had that thing would accelerate you towards that vision? And they always say corporate recruiting support. Right. And so that's conflicting. Like if the market leader is going to be responsible for growth, okay, but they think it's the organization's responsibility to do it for me, we're never going to grow. The number one question I get from CEOs when they find out that I'm a recruiting coach is, how do I get my market leaders to recruit? Right. And so there's just an expectation gap, right? We've got to close that. When you think about recruiting, if you all go to your teams and you ask them this question, why are you here? They'll say, I'm here because of you, or I'm here because of a leader in the marketplace, right? And so if you are the last person on the manufacturing line to get involved in recruiting, that person crosses that finish line very slowly, right? So imagine trying to buy something but not knowing what the product actually is that you're buying, right? But someone trying to sell it to you over and over again, and you finally saying, I'll take the conversation, now I'm being sold. So for branch managers, understand, like, you got to get involved in this process early. You got to understand it's your responsibility, your role. The only way you're going to grow is through you, not through a recruiter taking someone who's dissatisfied and has some hot buttons to push right now and putting them in front of you, right? And so what that means is this: no one's ever taught you how to grow. Can I get an amen? Like, no one's ever taught you how to recruit. And so where you start is honing that skill set, understanding how to become a recruiter. And whether someone ever told you that it was your responsibility, that you had to motivate unmotivated people to make change or not, right? It's your responsibility if you want to grow, right? That you're going to have to take ownership of that.
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree more. I think what's lost on some branch managers is that they are the product, like you just said, right? At the end of the day, you can have recruiters, you can have sourcers, you can have lead generators, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, they're coming to work for you. You are that value proposition in the whole equation. And the earlier you're involved in that process, the better success you're going to have. And we'll dive deeper into that. Bill, I wanted to talk to you. We talked a little bit earlier about database management. I know this is something you're super passionate about, and it's something that I think all of us should be passionate about because we have a lot of pent up demand, I feel like, in our databases. And clearly we haven't seen the shift in interest rates that we were expecting. So we don't have an onslaught of refinances, but what we should be doing is cultivating and building those relationships for when opportunities come. We have people that have been locked in their homes longer than they probably wanted to stay there because of the lock-in effect. And those people are looking to transact at some point in the near future or will be forced to. We certainly all expect to have some opportunities for refinance. So give me your thoughts around what loan officers should be doing around their database, your thoughts on growing your database. I'd love you to dive into that for us.
Yeah, so I've seen so many examples over the years. When I say so many examples, I've seen a few examples of databasing done really well. Some of you may know David Jaffe down in Southern California. Classic example of this, 20,000 people in his database. Wally Elabiari's got 28,000 because he's adopted other databases of wealth advisors, financial planners, so on and so forth. But what I know is when I speak to an audience, a generic audience of LOs, and you guys will all, I think, immediately recognize this, and I ask them how many people are in their database, and I go, it's interchangeable. Database, I don't know, so I cover both. But when I ask them, like, how many people are in your database, I'm going to go with that one, they often will say numbers like 175, 250, and they're saying it in sincerity because they look at those are the past borrowers, right? That's my database. Holy cow. When you compare that to somebody who's got 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 people in their database, David Jaffe told me once years ago, long before COVID, we were going to do a realtor event in Westlake Village down where I live in Southern California, and rates dropped. And he said, hey, coach, I can't do that realtor thing. What's up with that? And he said, well, when rates drop, I just, I go nuts. So he kind of didn't care about the realtor relationships. Like it didn't matter to him. His database made him market proof. And so the thing that I try and encourage loan officers to think about is, first of all, and if you would all just do it right now, take a look at your phone. For you iPhone users, go to contacts, go to the bottom, and just shout out some numbers. I know it's probably not going to hit the mics, but I'll repeat them. How many people do you have in your contacts? How many? 3,700. That's a good number. How many? 6,900. 6,900 going once. Anybody more than 6,900?
Don't make me pull my phone out.
I had a realtor with 11,000 today. So hang on. Sorry. I can't open it up like that and then try and shut it down. So here's the message. The message is, I realize they're not all necessarily prospects or people you'd even want to do business with. But my question is, how many of those people have heard from you in the last 30 days? And you're all leaders in here, right? So if you took this message back and shared it with your people and said, Bob Bodine wrote a wonderful book called The Power of Who. And he said, you already know everybody you need to know. It's a brilliant philosophy. Let's quit buying leads, looking for lead gen solutions, like go deep, everything Richard talks about, and start to follow him, by the way, on social. Everything he talks about is applicable to your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you talk a lot about just being authentic with your database too, right? I mean, it's about authentic outreach. We see so many ways of touching our database that are just canned. You know what I mean? It's not, doesn't feel organic.
So can I give you one that's a little more organic?
Yeah, please. Absolutely.
Forgive me here. Just real quick, you guys, think about this. My best man at my wedding 35 years ago used to use this expression, and it's brilliant. You walked across my mind. How cool is that? Not, hey, I'm hooked up to Slide Dial and I'm going to call 750 people this week. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you walked across my mind. You're already teeing up a very different conversation. Does that make sense? And now you say, hey, it's been a while since we've spoken. As you know, I'm in the real estate business. If you're in the mortgage business, you're in the real estate business. It's been a pretty crazy market. And my question is always, how are you guys doing? Now, the implication is you're in the real estate business, but you really want to know how they're doing. You open up that kind of conversation, just like you would advise, I believe. What Richard talks about is creating market leaders that have what I call gravitational pull, right? We need to do that same thing in this business. The bridge is just super narrow.
Yeah. And I know, Richard, and listening to you and getting to know you, a lot of your focus is on relationship building, right? I mean, you're teaching leaders to build relationships. So let's go into, kind of the process that you take people through as far as where to start. And then I know you have some thoughts on database and whatnot too. So I'd love to hear those.
Yeah. I think something that will connect to what you said really well is that I don't think we ever think about this, but communication done right is done in sequence, right? And I think for most of my career, if I would have shown up in a recruiting conversation, whether it was with a real estate agent or whether it was a loan officer, anything could have happened, right? I wasn't process oriented in the way I communicated. And when I think about it from a recruiting perspective, which, by the way, we were joking, like, who lets a recruiting coach at the MBA, right? That's not supposed to happen, right? I said something like, it's like inviting a fishing guide to the no fishing lake.
Yeah.
Or giving your teenager keys and telling them not to go drive, right? But it happens in sequence. And if you think about this, where all great relationships start is social, right? It has to start there. Where when you're thinking recruiting, and loan officers do this as well, they go directly from social conversation or social connection to a decision-making conversation. And there's a space in between there called the emotional connection that's lacking. And what you just said was, man, when I ask you, how are you? Like, that's an emotional connection, right? And so there's some fundamentals in how we communicate. You can motivate unmotivated people to move forward with you when you connect with them emotionally, right? Like that right brain over left brain. Logic slows things down, emotion speeds things up. And if you ever wonder that, cut my sweet wife off in traffic and she'll flip you off, right? Because it's an emotional decision, right? It was like a spontaneous decision. But I think if you start thinking of it like that, how do I connect with people emotionally, right? And there's certain things, like whenever I'm thinking about recruiting, I'm encouraging leaders, like, ask what their dream is, right? Like I have not met the leader yet that when they said, let's go through my pipeline and give me some ideas for how to recruit these people. When I say, do you know what their dream is? And I said, oh yeah, unequivocally, here it is, and I've got it for every single person, right? And so if you'll start shaping your conversation around some things that allow you to connect emotionally, okay, that's how you really build relationships, right? Like it starts relational. You should be thinking transformational before you start thinking transactional, right? You can get to the transaction if you can connect with people emotionally.
I can't take notes, and I wish I could. Can't wait to listen to this show.
Yeah. Well, you can take notes from the show, but no, I had written that down in my notes when we first had the conversation, right? About social communication, emotional communication, and then that whole decision type communication. And we tend to skip the emotional. I think the same thing happens with clients. I think a lot of loan officers, when they start talking to a client, it's like that, small talk, but they miss the rapport building part of that conversation, how important it is to build an emotional connection. And you can do it even through a loan application. You know what I mean? You can find ways of tying in, that emotional connection when they talk about their spouse, or they talk about their job, or they talk about their pets, or they talk, you can then spin off into stories. And it's important, I feel like, that you do that. That's the difference between, going on to just some online lender and working with a mortgage advisor, someone who not only has the knowledge and skills to help you find the right options for your home financing needs, but someone that actually wants to build a relationship with you as well. Also, I think it was Richard, maybe you talked about, we were talking about database, and you talked about your CO, CONODO.
Yeah.
You want to hit on that real quick? I thought that was good.
Sure. Well, just like Bill, to your point, like we all have a database sitting right here on our smartphone. We've never thought about it like that. We have a database. How I think of it from a recruiting perspective is very simply CONODO. And CO is your current opportunities. And these are people that already know who you are. Like if you were to shoot them a text, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's Richard. I think we forget that, as we, how many of you have decades of, time in this industry? you cross paths with so many people that you've forgotten about more people than you actually remember at this point, right? Those current opportunities, how I think about those is that that's a massive part of your process and your pipeline, because if I connected with my past relationships today and I just said, hey, 2026 is coming up. My big goal going to 2026 is to bring more value to the people that know me. If you're okay with that, I'd love to show up from time to time and share an idea with you that I think could help you in your business. Would you be open to that? That's a very simple process to engage your current opportunities, right? The NOs are the new opportunities, which market leaders are like, I'm never going to cold call. I hate cold calling people, right? Like nobody in the room like that, right? Your new opportunities are people that don't know who you are, that you should be identifying and working to cross that relationship bridge with. But there's a spot there, and Jeremy, you talked about social earlier in this. How important is the digital opportunity today? It's massive. And when you look at the industry as a whole, it's approximately 10 to 12% of leaders in this industry actually create content. I'm not talking about loan officers, I'm talking about leaders that create content. And so most leaders are lacking the digital opportunity. And so, your pipeline of people is relatively small because you haven't thought about your past, you're not thinking about your future, and you don't have a digital strategy.
Yeah, I think that applies to everybody. Bill, what are your thoughts on that?
Let me just, piggyback on that for a second. I was telling Dan Keller this story earlier. So I've had a presence on social for a long time. I was doing video before video was cool, and they were awful.
Bill, you made video cool. Yeah.
Come on. So, I mean, if you think I'm kidding, go to my YouTube channel and look back at 2014. Awful audio, awful video. I talked too long. It wasn't good, right? But I was out there. And so anyway, over time, I hope I built a reputation of being someone that people can trust. And so people reach out to me often on social. Friday, I get a message on LinkedIn from a guy who, he's a friend, on LinkedIn. He read my book. He said something nice about the book. And every once in a while, he'll just comment on something that I post. Friday, he says, hey, Coach, I am 55 years old, just moved from Houston to Austin, Texas. He's probably going to hear this, but it's okay. Because he said, I've worked for a regional bank in private banking and wealth management for 30 years. And I was caught up in a riff and I've been laid off. And so my question to you is, mortgage and real estate has always seemed more exciting to me. Legit, right? Is it possible for a guy in his mid-50s to start over? What did I do? What do you think I did? I scheduled a call with him. We spoke Monday. I think he'll kill it. I think he'll be fantastic. Problem is, he just bought his dream home in Austin, and he doesn't know anybody there. All his contacts are in Houston. He's going back to Houston. I connected him to our regional director today. I believe this guy's got an amazing opportunity. But that's all because of social. That's my point. Social used to be go to BNI, go to Kiwanis, right? Social is so much more efficient now. It's so much more efficient. This guy in Texas I've never met. He's looking for a trusted voice to give him advice. It's the same thing in the mortgage industry. I'm just sort of tangential to that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Matter of fact, I signed up for Master's Coach because of a video that you posted. I got some friends in here that are part of Master's Coach program with Building Champions. And, it was a video that it was like you were speaking to my heart at that time. And, that's what motivated me to reach out and that got me in that program and started our relationship with coaching. It's like this podcast, right? We started this podcast really as a leader in the mortgage industry to try to get, the message out there. Look, we don't get thousands and thousands of views. I mean, some episodes do really well, but you know what? It's repurposed all over the place on different social media platforms. And I don't go to an event now without someone saying something about market shares, right? And so it does. It plants those seeds. And I think everybody should have some sort of a digital presence out there. I mean, I think
you're a master at this. I mean, you guys need to, I told you before to follow Richard, but I would love for you to describe, if you don't mind, kind of your formula for that, because you're such an interesting mix. Coming out here, I saw the post on the airplane where you were talking about coming out here, but then there was also the post about, I think it was one of your daughters. And I just think you do such a beautiful mix of displaying who you are as a man, but also the value that you bring to the marketplace. What's your philosophy on?
If I ever need a hype man, you're gonna follow me around, brother. Okay, like this guy.
I speak truth.
I
I'm
love
not.
it.
I'm not selling.
Well, so my journey is interesting because in 2016, Flowify did a survey, which was 13,000 top originators. They asked them the question, how did you get to your next opportunity? Right. And so we're talking about that was whatever that is, like 9 years now, right? 75% of them said they got to the next opportunity self-selecting and self-soliciting. That was 2016. Well, I saw that. I just started 4C recruiting in 2017. I saw it and I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. And then it made sense. I was like, well, that's digital, right? Like we used to handshake, meet in person, make eye contact, project our voice. That's called, relationship proof. Now it's called social proof, right? So I started coaching to it. And leaders would say to me, you don't get it. And I'm like, I do get it. You're a professional juggler, right? You all have 12 balls in the air right now. You're checking your email, trying to figure out if you're going to make it back in time to pick up the kids, like whatever. You got 12 balls in the air right now. Trying to throw digital in the air just doesn't make a lot of sense, right? I got frustrated. By the time I got to 2018, I was not getting leaders to do it. I was doing it myself. And I was modeling it, but I couldn't get them to do it. And so I launched a social media company going into 2019. We grew that in 19, 20, 21, and 22, and 23 before AI came out, and we shut it down because the handwriting was on the wall, right? But that journey for me, what it revealed to me is that there's a framework out there as a leader that exists if you'll tap into this, which is that I call it the attractive leader framework, right? A leader that's magnetic, that's polarizing, that just, you guys know who they are. You can probably name them right now. Right? Like Greg Gunn, like that's a guy like he just pulls you in for whatever reason. Well, in the digital world, you can represent that. And I just started to say, what is that? What does it mean to be polarizing in digital? Well, it's a leader who has a clear vision for where they're going, right? A leader who has a clear value system that's articulating and talking around it regularly, or has lots of clarity around it. And it's a leader with a greater purpose, right? Like greater why is a purpose, cause, or belief that inspires us to do more, inspires us to be more. And so I'm like, that's the framework. Like if we can take that and showcase that externally, right? When you think about recruiting, if you're a loan officer recruiting an agent or a market leader recruiting a loan officer, you're just trying to show someone on the outside what it's like to be a part of your team or part of the partnership with you while they're still not a part of that partnership. So you're just trying to showcase that externally. So as leaders, when we capture how we're acting already, it becomes content curation, not content creation. Right? And I think we've thought about it incorrectly, which is that every one of you today had content all around you. Just like you referenced, like when I got on the plane, I was waiting for about 10 minutes for launch. What's the content? I turned the camera around, took a photo, and created content in the moment and posted it. That's the framework to how we should be thinking. That's magnetic, that's attractive.
Yeah. So you mentioned that, and I couldn't agree with you more. You mentioned that you shut down that when AI came out. And I know that we in our pre-call talked a bit about AI. So it's the end of 2025. We can't not talk about AI right now. So Bill, I'll start with you. And I know you both have some thoughts around this. What are you talking about in your coaching sessions around AI right now? What do you think is relevant? How do you see people using it? And where do you think that people should be going with it? Like how invested should we be in AI right now?
Yeah, very. I was at Sales Mastery in Dallas, Todd Duncan's event, about a month ago, and there was a common theme that came up casually. It wasn't like a main point, but 3 different times I heard people say, "Well, yeah, the LOA is going to be replaced by AI." 3 different times, 3 different speakers, different ways. They were saying that role, that individual, their days are numbered. And you'll have great examples of how that could play out. I'll give you an example of what I'm doing as a coach. How many of you are coaches in the room as we're here? Any of you? So in rough numbers, 2. Okay. So here's, you coach. But here's something that I learned from a client of mine in North Carolina. We were having a coaching session and he said, "Hey coach, do you mind if I record the call?" And I said, "No, tell me what you're doing." He said, "Well, I'm recording." Maybe you guys are doing this. This has been 2 months ago now. So in eternity, in AI life, right? But he said, "Well, I'm recording all of my consults, all of my initial buyer consults. I'm explaining it to the borrower in the sense that it's a value add to them. I don't want to miss anything. Then I've created a prompt in, he uses Gemini for whatever reason. He's an Android guy. I would do this in Chat GPT, but that's just me. It doesn't really matter what agent you use, doesn't matter. But he said, I give it a prompt that says, remove all personal conversation. So when they're talking about their cat and their grandma that just died, like none of that's in there. Distill this down to its essence with specific actions for the borrower. I send it to the borrower, their agent, and my team. And I'm like, oh, dude, like, where have I been? I have not been paying attention. So now I do that with every single coaching session. I've created the custom prompt for that. My clients are loving it. Think about when you and I were coaching. I would take notes. Think about this, you guys. I'm taking notes poorly because I didn't take a typing class. I took a wood shop class. I can make you a cheese board, but I can't type very fast, right? So I'm trying to listen to him making notes on the thing he said just before, which means I'm not really hearing what he's saying now. It's a valuable tool. So anyway, that's the way I'm using it. And the last thing I want to tell you is write down the name Katie Shive. You need to check her out. Dave Savage just told me about her, katieshive.com, S-H-I-V-E. She worked for Shayla Gifford with Guild for 6 years, brilliant MBA, brilliant marketing mind. And what she does is she creates a brand book for you, but it's done by a 90-minute interview. And she has you fill out a form with like key blog posts and like for me, my book, the books that you've written. So she aggregates all that through these proprietary prompts. And she gives you this book that's like, and here's who you are. And then you have custom, she calls them custom GPTs. You go in, I was telling Dan this again earlier. When I flew out here, I had an idea and I put it in and it created a LinkedIn post. I'm sure this is what you're doing. A LinkedIn post in my voice, not literally, not like you do, just like my words, right? An Instagram post and a script for a video. That's the AI that I'm seeing, just what's scratching the surface for me. But you, my friend, have taken this to a whole new level.
Well, but before Richard gets into that, I mean, am I the only one who has a Teams meeting on their calendar that gets canceled, but then it pops up as an active call because someone had invited their AI to it and the AI never got the notification it was canceled? And I'm like, oh, the meeting's back on. It's like, oh, it's just Larry's AI showing up.
My otter is here.
It happens. But no, Richard, we talked a lot about AI on our pre-call, and then at the end of it, I had taken all these wonderful notes that I have here, and then you said, oh, well, that wasn't necessary because I've got all the notes for you and we got it all laid out. So yeah, give us your take on just AI in general. Like, how are you using it? How are you advising people that you're coaching to use it? And then what are your thoughts on where this goes in the near future?
Yeah. Well, how I'm using it is this. So just to play on our brand name, 4C Recruiting, an easy way to remember this, I think every leader should be capturing their voice. Okay. And when I say capture, there's just so many tools to invite into your virtual meetings today or when you're in person like this. If it wouldn't have interfered with the microphone, I wear a Plod device typically. I tap the device, it goes to the cloud, I tap it again, it's done recording, right? And so so you want to be capturing you. And the reason why is that AI is not wise, it's a knowledge base, right? Humans have wisdom, right? Like knowledge is knowing how to start a fight with your wife. Wisdom is knowing not to start a fight with a wife, right? So it's got knowledge, but it doesn't have wisdom. Right. And so you have to give it your wisdom, right? Which is your mortgage experience, your stories, all those things. And if you'll just start inviting the device, whatever it is, for me, it's Fathom if I'm in Zoom, and I'm always in Zoom. If I'm in Teams, Fathom works in there as well. If it's in person, but my Plod device won't work, my phone has Otter on it, I'm recording with Otter. It's great, like 25 feet out, it'll notate every speaker that's involved. If it's too close and it's in person, then it's my Plod device, and it's all being captured. I have over 6,000 hours of me captured because I started using Fathom in 2023, early 2023. My knowledge base is massive. So I can create content today based off my knowledge, based off my voice, where it's not generic anymore. It sounds like Richard. The second thing that I did was I gave it context. I mean, here's what context is. What are your values? What are your personality profiles? Like, take the Myers-Briggs, take the Enneagram, take the Colby Index, the 5 voices, the DISC, take them all, right? And put them in there. You're going to be blown away. The moment you take a couple of those personality profiles and drop them into your AI and say, remember this, you're going to be blown away by how quickly it assimilates your voice. Okay. So you want to capture your voice and move it in there. Okay. I think in ChatGPT, if you're using it, you get 2 million tokens of storage space, which is like 3,200 pages of information that you can store in your own version of ChatGPT. Okay. Now give it context. Okay. I'm going to skip over commands because I think commands, when we originally started using commands, I mean, it was a really big deal to get a list of commands from people and like use your commands. Listen, the best trainer for your AI for you is your AI. Okay, not another human being. Okay, the IQ is 280 for AI right now. So what I would encourage you to do is forget about commands, go to co-create. Here's what it looks like to co-create. Pretend it's a teammate, not software. We've all grown up on software. Okay, this is like a living entity here that, you know, if it gives you a bad response to whatever you ask it to create, you treat it like a teammate. What would you say to a teammate? You'd coach the teammate up, right? You wouldn't say, you're fired, bad response. Okay, well, maybe somebody in here would, but most of us would. Right, so you want to co-create with it back and forth. That was 70% the way there, but that didn't quite sound like me. And what you're going to find is that it's going to start to learn you. And if you get to a place you're like, that's money, that's whatever we just produced here was magic, then you simply say, give me a command to recreate this, right? You'll get the commands from your AI, right? So I try to oversimplify it for leaders. If you're capturing and giving it context, you're going to get to some places really, really quick.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure I clarify some of the things that you said there. So you're using a device to capture in-person conversations. You're using a device to record your Zoom calls, but you're giving that content to your AI and say, like, learn who I am through all of this data that I'm giving you, right?
Super simple. You can take transcript, drop it in your chat and say, remember this. And it'll literally say memory stored. All right. And so, yeah, it's remembering who you are, your conversations, how you talk.
Yeah. I don't know that I'm not doing that, right? I use AI a lot, but I'm not training my AI to make sure that it's emulating who I am. And I'm constantly frustrated with it. I don't yell at it, but sometimes I do. I'm like, you're an idiot. Like, that's not what I was looking for. So maybe I need to train
That's
it a little
going to come
better.
back and bite you.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know.
Did you not see the movie?
I know. I did see the movie.
These are marked.
I'm scared of the movie. I'll be honest with you. No, I think that's okay. Any other thoughts on AI? You mentioned, I put in our notes here, you wrote decreation, recreation, and metacreation. Do you want to touch on that real quick?
Sure. I think that as leaders, we're going to all end up in 3 buckets. And there's going to be the decreators, and how I would describe a decreator is the person who generically uses AI, right? And then takes things like, puts that into an email and sends it to your team member, or takes that and turns that into content. Right? That's going to be decreator. It's going to devalue you. You're going to have recreators, which are going to create something that's as equal as anybody else, but it's going to be the sameness, right? And then you're going to have what I would call meta creators. The word meta means beyond. And like, just think about this. Already, when coaching people right now, we're taking loan officer data paired with the dreams conversation, paired with their sales playbook, with a command to help them grow their business. And what it's spitting out is an actual playbook that leader can present and then follow when they come on board. And it's like, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-blowing. It's like having a project manager with the smartest version of a person in the room, with a graphic designer, with a copywriter, with all of that combined. So we're just getting some places now where, as leaders, if we don't embrace this, you know, every company's taking their own pace at this, right? Some are accelerating and some are taking a slower pace at this. But as leaders, we can embrace it, right? And embrace it at a level in some of these simple places where content creation makes a lot of sense. Responding to emails, you guys get 500 emails a day, right? If you can train it in your voice and it responds better than you would respond meaningfully, right? You would use it for that, okay? And then some other places are, we're going to go beyond to literally be able to show a loan officer how I can help you accomplish your dream in 12 months based on my sales playbook.
So what I hear from that is that if you're thinking you're going to use AI to make your job easier, you're a decreator, right? You're basically, if I'm going to just delegate, if I'm just going to give the same level of service, but I'm going to make it easier by using AI to do it, that's not going to work in the future, you know? And if you're using it to maybe enhance what you're doing a little bit, well, join the club. Like that's what everybody's using it for, right? But it's really that next level. It's leveraging it in multiple different ways to take what is everything of your thoughts, and as if you had a whole team around you creating something that would typically take a project manager, a creative, a marketing team, and one person's able to do that if they're leveraging the AI properly. And you got to be moving in that direction.
You got it. I mean, the ideas that are already here now are like mind blowing. I was in a conversation Friday of last week with the top producer in the state of Ohio who's taking a realtor database, dropping it into an AI voice bot. It's making 1,000 calls immediately. And without any other effort than that, he put 56 agents in a room. He never talked to them. He looked at the call log. Only one person even questioned whether it was AI. Right. And so we got to start thinking like that, because it is going to make us more efficient, which means that the leaders that aren't using it, it's going to be obvious. I already said 10 to 12% of leaders are creating content. They're estimating content and socials going up 10x in 3 years. Like that's crazy, right? Because of AI, because of how easy it is to create it.
The only thing I'm going to add to that is make sure you understand your TCPA laws, guys, if you're in the mortgage industry, okay? Because that's becoming a big thing, right? I mean, we talk about this outreach, these phone calls, and it's not as easy today. I'll probably do a whole episode on that at some point, because it's an evolving part, and it is making this whole database conversation a whole lot more difficult if you're doing it right. It's tough. It's tough to do things like that and do it compliantly. We talked about building a database with partnering with your, financial advisors and other referral partners who you might partner with, and then outreach to that database. You got to be really careful about unsolicited text messages, phone calls, things of that nature. And believe me, right now, hot topic in the mortgage industry, lots of plaintiffs' attorneys out there looking for those lawsuits against mortgage companies, especially the big ones. They're targets right now. So not to put a rain on your parade, I'm just saying it's a real thing here at the Washington Mortgage Bankers Association. We're all happen to be right in the middle of that space. Bill, you were talking about in your coach's chair, you're hearing a lot of loan officers that feel like they're on a hamster wheel. And you'd kind of talked a little bit about, how do you get off the hamster wheel and get onto the track? What are your thoughts around that? What inspired that conversation?
I mean, I've heard it more than once. That's why I said it. Anytime that I hear something 2 or 3 times, then I think that's a thing, kind of a trend. And yeah, I mean, it could be, I'm burned out, I'm on a hamster wheel. You guys know what I'm talking about. Some of you may have felt it. You may not want to raise your hand right now, but you've heard other people say this. You know what I'm talking about. And so I think it's a really cool time. I was thinking as I was listening to you, Richard, what an exciting time it is to be alive. Do you guys agree? It's such an exciting time to be alive. So if I'm a mortgage lender looking at 2026, feeling a little burned out, like I'm bit on a hamster wheel, what an awesome time to blow it up. Like blow it up. And the best book that I can recommend to you right now, it is my #1 recommendation for anybody that I'm coaching. And it's called The Science of Scaling by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Dr. Benjamin Hardy wrote 10X is easier than 2X. Do you guys remember that book from a year or two ago? So he takes that concept and now he creates a recipe around it. You've just started reading it, right?
Finished on playing.
Nice, nice. Is it not fantastic? So simplest premise that I can give you is this. If that whole hamster wheel thing makes sense to you, and I was talking to another audience about this today, realtors and mortgage lenders, think about this. What if you were to dream bigger? And in that meeting today, I put up the top 3 realtors in the country and the top 3 mortgage lenders in the country and talked about what they were doing and showed their numbers. And it's humiliating, right? Like it's humiliating. These numbers are so big. But the point is, I wanted to show them the extreme. Like that's an extreme example. It's being done in the same market that you feel like you're frustrated in, right? So if we look at that and listen to what he says in the book, Dr. Hardy says, dream big, dream much bigger than you think is possible, and then dramatically shorten your time frame. And he also talks about raising your floor. And that is what's the minimum that's acceptable to you. So in my mind, Tony, the way that I view this, you guys, is this is the most amazing time that we've had in a relatively young industry. In the scheme of things, this is a pivotal time. You just heard the gentleman that was up here earlier that Jeremy had interviewed. Did you guys catch his volume in his first 2 years in the business? There's so much opportunity. I asked him, I said, where are your leads coming from? Are you talking to realtors? He said, no, I'm knocking on doors. Excuse me? Whose doors? He said, I'll go to strip centers, just start talking to businesses. There's so much opportunity. It's such an awesome time to be alive. You guys, if you're on the hamster wheel, it's time to reboot. Buy that book, The Science of Scaling, Dr. Benjamin Hardy.
Yeah, I'm also listening to that book. And when you mentioned it the other day, I was still listening to it. I'm not done yet. I haven't had much time to listen to my audiobooks, I guess. I need to be on a plane more, like what Richard was talking about this morning. But one thing, just a quick thing from that book, I don't remember the exact details. I'll paraphrase, but you'll get the concept, which is he was talking to a business owner about, what his goals were. And he said, well, I think in 7 years, I could accomplish this thing. And he's like, well, how about you do that, in 3 years? And he's like, well, I don't know if I could maybe in 3 years. He goes, cool, let's do it in 1 year. What if you could accomplish it in 1 year? And you just go, oh my gosh, like what if I took these 5-year plans and made them 9-month plans? Like, how would you attack that differently? The reason I brought up the hamster wheel thing is because I agree with you. There's a lot of people that are feeling like they're on a hamster wheel. They're like head down, dealing with the challenges that this market has. But you guys, this has been the most exciting conversation about all the ways, all the things you could focus on that would get you off of the hamster wheel. There's so many things that you could implement into your life and your business to get you off the hamster wheel. If you're on the hamster wheel, it's because you're not paying attention, in my opinion, to how to set goals, how to, decide what is the path forward. I'm curious your thoughts on this one, Richard.
Well, look, I think hamster wheel to me feels like it's like, same day all over again and again and again. And that's where you end up being burned out. Here's what I would encourage you around is that I love bringing value to people. Like, do you guys feel that? Like, I hate being transactional. I really enjoy like over the top value to people. And this room is full of really experienced leaders. Okay, that's a kind way of saying aging leader. I'm just kidding. You all are in the sweet spot of your career. Okay, which means that you all have an enormous amount of value to give, and I think we forget that, right? Like experienced leaders can see patterns, and they already know what's coming. You guys feel that, right? Like you already know what's coming when something starts to happen again and again and again. And there's an audience in this industry that needs your voice, that needs your value, that needs that experience. You'll fall back in love with this business when we stop being so transactional and we start thinking transformational, right? I love building relationships. I hate recruiting, right? I love bringing value. I hate asking for the sale, right? And so for each of you to show up, whether you're recruiting an agent, a builder, a loan officer, as a relationship builder first, and then bring in them value. Value creates velocity in relationships. You guys get that, right? Like the fastest way to get someone to move towards you is to bring more value to them than anybody else, right? The more value that we bring in this industry, the more in demand we become. And if I'm burned out, I think it's a great chance to look in the reflection and say, growth is the natural progression of great leadership. Growth is natural progression of great self-leadership. That's where it always starts, right? And I think we turn back to some of these things that we already know, we just have forgotten.
Yeah, absolutely. Bill, we're going to wrap it up here. Is there anything that you were really hoping that we were going to talk about this evening? Things that have been like top of mind in your coaching sessions over the last, couple months that we didn't touch on that you think would be valuable here for the audience today?
Yeah, the basic theme would be, and again, it's so similar to what Richard just said, but the thing that I find myself talking about a lot is become educated so that you can educate. And what I mean by that is read the books, listen to the podcasts, watch the TED Talks. You don't need to binge any more Apple TV. Stop it. It's something we started during COVID. All of us, remember, this is a whole new phenomenon. Like, how many episodes are there, honey? Well, there's 10. I'm in if you're in. And we just we binge through it. and we don't work out, and we don't put together our plans, and we don't wake up early, and we stop it. If a show's really, really good, figure out a dedicated time to watch it, but don't just turn it on. I find myself all the time having this conversation with my wife, like, honey, I have to read now. Honey, I'm journaling. And she'll go, she's usually playing solitaire on her iPad. That's what happens, right? It's like, you're in your lane, I'm in my lane. That would be my challenge. Become educated so that you can educate. How many of you have messaged something to someone about a 50-year mortgage? It's a great conversation starter. It's a horrible idea, but it's a great conversation starter, right? Just turn on your camera, turn it on and start talking about it. What you're going to find is when you do that and you're authentic. Jeremy Poole was talking earlier about being authentic. Make sure that you're not trying to be, hi, this is Bill Hart with Movement Mortgage, and I've got some information that I'd like to convey to you, because very quickly they're going to tune out. Like, what is that? But if I'm just me and talking about what I believe and what I think, even if I'm wrong, I don't even care if you're wrong. Just start communicating more, and you're going to find you're going to begin to attract people to you. That's the thing I bubble over with right now.
Love it. Richard, what are your final thoughts?
I mean, that's so good, Bill. I'm just going to riff off of what Bill said, because I was listening to The Science of Scaling on the plane here, and I finished the book. And there, towards the end of it, there was a quote that he was quoting somebody else in the book, but he said, level 10 players will not go work for level 8 leaders, right? And so, one of my daily affirmations, I've been saying this for probably about 5 or 6 years, is that the current version of Richard is not hireable by the 10-year better version of Richard. Like, that's scary, right? To say, like, this version of me, which is, I think is pretty good, is not even going to be hireable by the better version of me in 10 years. And that's just a commitment to the journey of growth. That's it. I think the danger zone for anyone, whether it's a loan officer or a leader in this industry, is that this industry is amazing and the opportunities are incredible, whether it's financial, whether it's, from a leadership position, whatever it is. We get to a place and we stop being dynamic. We start becoming static, right? And so I think the challenge for us in an era where the world is going to move faster, futurists say that 1 year is the previous version of the 200 years combined. The world is going to move faster moving forward than it's ever moved. The challenge for us as leaders is to lean into that, what you're talking about, and just making a recommitment to developing ourselves and growing.
Yeah, I think we have to carve out the time, right, to consume that education and that content, especially if we're in a leadership space or a coaching space. You have to fill your tank with the things that you're going to, coach on and teach on and train on, and how you're going to inspire people. You guys, I want to thank you for your time this evening. Both of you hopped on an airplane, flew out here to come join us at the Washington Mortgage Bankers Association live event. You guys give them a huge round of applause.
Buddy, this was so fun.
For those of you watching on YouTube, or for those of you listening, because this is a podcast, you might be listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever the case may be. I want to thank you for your time and attention. It's the one thing that you can't get back, and I hope that you got value out of this episode. If you did, then consider subscribing to this channel. We come out with a new episode every single Friday. And if you missed the one about the 50-year mortgage, like what Bill was just talking about, go back and watch it, because I think it's going to be a little interesting take than what most people have. And until next time, take care.
Good job, buddy.
Thanks, brother.
Good job.